What is going on, everybody? ZyoniK here, and in today's video I have I think this might be the best team this season for me personally, and this team as well does so good against the meta, especially against Clodsire. And if you guys aren't aware, most of you are, later today, I'm recording this Sunday morning, later today is the community day for Wooper, and we are getting access to Clodsire, which is going to be pretty strong in the meta, and this whole team beats it. Water Gun Lantern, Superior, and Medicham. So if you're looking for a strong team that does well against the meta and can also handle this community day hype, look no further than this team. Let me know what you guys think. For reference, I did these battles. I was able to go from 2,500 to 2,700. Very close to expert right now with this team. But overall, very, very strong. Let's get right into it. All right, getting into the first battle, Lantern versus Lantern. Now, this is going to be an interesting matchup because they have Spark and we have Water Gun. So they obviously have a pretty big advantage. If we go too long into this fight, they get to the charge moves faster and they're doing neutral damage against us. So we really can't stay in this matchup, but I will look to go for a Thunderbolt. And then I'm going to want to come in with Medicham to try to potentially draw. We get a shield as well, so I'm definitely coming in with that Medicham. And we draw out a Mandibuzz. So this is good for two reasons. Firstly, it keeps Superior safe in the back, right? Mandibuzz might be the hardest answer to grass-type Pokemon, which while I'm happy to take all day long. And in this matchup as well with a Medicham safe swap is Ice Punch does super effective damage, and thanks to counter doing neutral damage because of that dark and flying typing. So our Medicham here is going to do very well in this mid-game matchup, and it is in my control to flip the mid-game matchup, which is what I'm going to look to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start giving up shields. Switch Clock is coming back up, so we will see the next charge move come through. This is going to be close for Aerial Ace, but I'm going to go ahead and shield, respect the flip, and they decide to swap out back into Superior or back into Lantern, so I'm going to counter swap now into Superior, and this is a very good position. We went from what was a bad situation with the lead and the mid game into a very positive situation. I have plenty of health left on Medicham, plenty of health on Lantern. I have a very positive matchup here with Superior. As we take it out, and the final Pokemon is going to be a Lickitung. So this is something we can definitely overcome here. It's going to be close. Remember, the Lickitung is pretty bulky, so we just got to try to land as many Frenzy Plants as possible. And also remember, we have a Psychic and Ice Punches on our Medicham, so they are definitely concerned about all the energy that we have access to. Now, I throw the Frenzy Plant right away because Switch Clock is coming back up, so I don't want that Mandibuzz to catch it. We get the final shield. I counter swap now into Lantern, and this is an effort to force them to throw a Power Whip. If this is Body Slam, it's not going to be enough, and we would be able to get to a charge move. So boom, we go down. Medicham can come in, and now I'm in a great position here to KO both the Lickitung and the Mandibuzz with an Ice Punch. So down goes the Lickitung, and Mandibuzz still in the back is going to go down as well. So that is going to be a good game, very well played. So able to overcome what was kind of a tough situation thanks to the bulk of this team. Now, good game right there to my opponent. Moving into the next one. Now, what I want to emphasize to you guys is I did these battles. Remember, I'm recording this Sunday morning. My community day is this afternoon. So, unfortunately, I don't see any Clodsires here. But I did these battles Friday and Saturday. It was a lot of sets done. And that's why we have a good 30-minute video for you guys full of wins and losses. And now we had a Nidoqueen there on lead. So, while I said at the beginning you guys can beat Clodsire teams, it has yet to be seen by my side based on when I've done these battles. But this team all has the potential to beat Clodsire, so you have some safety there and some consistency, right? So I just want to make you guys aware. Now, we had a Shadow Nidoqueen on the lead, and since we have Water Gun Lantern, that's obviously huge. And we have a Lickitung here that we can get Shield Advantage or Switch Advantage from as we go ahead and go for another Psychic, and we get shield advantage. Now, you might be thinking, hold on, you just lost the mid game to a Lickitung. What's the point? Well, Superior can easily come in right here, and this is a perfect opportunity to load up on energy. Remember, Nidoqueen is only takes neutral damage, or it doesn't resist, right? It doesn't resist Frenzy Plant, and that's a Shadow Nidoqueen. So a Frenzy Plant, which I do have, plenty of health on Superior as well. They decide to come in, so I'm going to go ahead and go for the Frenzy Plant. Now, I am concerned they might have Lantern in the back, or a water type, so I'm going to go ahead and counter swap into my Lantern, but they actually have Medicham in the back, which makes sense, but this is still a very good situation for us because Water Gun Lantern just does so well in this meta. I know it doesn't gain energy as quickly, but you got to think about the coverages that you have. Think about the super effective damage that we saw there to Nidoqueen, super effective damage to Gligar. We're going to be seeing that later in this video. Super effective damage to stuff like Diggersby, or Steelix, or Bastiodon, or Clodsire. Water Gun Lantern is very strong, and I think kind of slept on, and it pairs very well with Superior because of that water and electric typing to counter the fires and flyers out there in the meta. So the Nidoqueen is going to be coming back in to get the Poison Fang. We counter swap into Superior and fast move down, and that is going to be a good game. Very well played. All right, moving to the next one. Alolan Sandslash. This is probably the toughest Pokemon to face off against for this team because of what it can do to the core of Lantern and Superior. Now, that doesn't mean you can't beat it. We will be able to overcome some Sandslashes, but there's also going to be some games where Sandslash could potentially beat us because of how the game plays out. So you guys need to take that all into account as you do your battles. I'm going to go ahead and counter swap as I did get even shields, and we do draw out a Wigglytuff here. So what we're going to look to do is go for Psychic. Now, when I did these battles, it was kind of laggy, not going to lie. Just some fast move animations would disappear, and they would just come right back and all my health would be gone. But we are able to get to an Ice Punch in time. This is huge. This gets us the 1-0 shield advantage, which is perfect, as we can now come in with Lantern and soak the charge move here, which is likely going to be Disarming Voice. I'm hoping it's Ice Beam, but it's probably going to be Disarming Voice, which is fine, which is why I decided to come in with Lantern and look to soak that. So we are going to see the Alolan Sandslash come in, which is okay. Alolan Sandslash, especially since it's not Shadow, and this is, I believe it's Shadow Claw as well. Let me just have a look. Yeah, it is going to be Shadow Claw. Just because it's in this, I have a shield, right? We're totally fine. We're totally fine because Aerial Ace can KO. Now they decide to bring in Medicham, a shiny Medicham at that, and this is looks to be a kind of tough situation because both Pokemon can do super effective damage with Ice Punch. But thankfully for Superior right here, we're very tanky. Superior is a beautiful grass type Pokemon for this meta. Gone are the days of Trevenant, and here are the days of the Snake, as we go ahead and go for a Frenzy Plant here. This does a little bit more neutral damage, as it's going to be enough to KO. Boom! And then we can go for a Frenzy Plant here against the Alolan Sandslash, and that is going to be a good game. Very well played. So even though we were in kind of a tough situation, Superior was able to sweep right there. So good game. All right, moving to the next one, Pelipper. All right, so very good lead. Obviously, they don't know we don't have Spark, so they swap in Steelix. And this is a good situation. Like I said earlier, Water Gun takes people by surprise. They come into matchups that they necessarily shouldn't, because the assumption is it's going to be Spark, which is a bit different in terms of the matchups. But now we put out so much pressure. Now I counter swap into Superior here, hoping to catch the Earthquake. That was my play and my hope, but they throw Breaking Swipes, which is fine. They're going to go ahead and go for back-to-back, and this is still okay. I was really hoping to catch that Earthquake. I think that would have been beautiful. I needed to save health on my Lantern to handle the Pelipper, and we draw out a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. So this is, again, one of those situations where it's still looking okay. Medicham, obviously, going to counter through. We have proper alignment. So things are looking very good, and we are doing quite a bit of resisted damage. And this is after 2 Breaking Swipes as well. You can just see the damage that is coming out here against Alolan Sandslash. It is already basically to the red, near the red. It's at yellow. But look at that health, right? In this matchup, you wouldn't really expect that from a grass-type Pokemon into a Ice Steel. But now we're looking good. We just did 2 counters right there. Alolan Sandslash is basically gone after that fast move, as they will go for Drill Run. We will see the Pelipper come back in, so we're going to go ahead and come in with Lantern. And this is going to be a good game. We can safely look to No Shield here. I don't think that was enough energy for Hurricane. It is just going to be Weather Ball. And then we can just go straight Thunderbolts. The whole point of this is to get the shields, and if I have to, come in with Medicham at the end with a shield and go for Psychic. Close the game out, but boom! Down it goes. They knew it was going to be a good game. All right, moving to the next one, Swampert. So this is going to be kind of a tough lead, but not bad later on because of energy that we could have on the Lantern with Surf and Water Gun neutral damage. But we swap into Medicham, and we're going to go ahead and go down 1 shield right here and kind of read what my opponent is doing. And they're deciding to stay in. So this tells me they could be very weak in the back to Medicham. Maybe they are core broken, and Swampert is actually their best answer. So what we want to do here is look to leverage the mid-game matchup by going for multiple Ice Punches, because they're clearly concerned about a Medicham, so they're likely going to be shielding the Swampert. So we want to go for that lower energy charge move that still does some great neutral damage, as we do get the 1-0 shield. Now, there's not a lot in the game when it comes to a 1-0 shield advantage that Superior and Lantern can't handle through resisted damage as well. So we come in with the Superior. They go ahead and go for Hydro Cannon, which is fine, as it's going to be resisted, and we get a very nice farm down. Now, we see a Mandibuzz come in, so I'm going to go ahead and swap into Lantern, and it's going to be a Registeel in the back. So this is kind of one of those tough situations where, is it something that you can overcome? We know there's, if the Lantern goes down, right, Mandibuzz beats the Superior. That's a fact. But what you're about to see is what a Lantern can do here in the 1-0. Obviously, it's a huge advantage, 1-0. They went for Zap Cannon. We don't get the attack debuff. And now it's going to be a race to the charge move, and we will be able, I could have potentially gone for a Surf right there, but I get to the Thunderbolt just in time, as this is going to be taking out Registeel, and then that is going to be a good game as Mandibuzz comes back in, but they unfortunately don't have enough damage to handle the rest of my team. All right, moving into the next one. Superior on the lead. Very bad lead matchup. Obviously, we're going to go ahead and come in with Medicham, an even worse mid-game matchup. This is about as bad as it gets. Superior into Lantern and a Sableye into Medicham. So what we're going to hope to do here is try to get ourselves shield advantage if we can. So we're going to go ahead and go for Ice Punch. And we're going to no-shield the Foul Play as well. Hoping that we can survive, which we do! 1 HP in a dream, absolutely beautiful. And this next Ice Punch is going to get the Sableye low, but they decide to shield instead, which gives me the advantage that I really, really want. I think the Sableye could have definitely gotten away with no shielding that matchup. So maybe they're wanting to land a potential return right here, which is fine by me, because I have to pray. Lantern has basically no play in this game. So I have to rely, and they actually decide to counter swap into Superior, which is now a very good situation for me, potentially, right? We still don't know what's in the back, but obviously right here, the Superior mid-game, or kind of post-mid-game matchup, the mirror match here, is going to be Aerial Ace, but I do have a 2-to-1 shield advantage, so this is going to be somewhat of a good situation, and it's all going to come down to what is Pokemon number 3. Now, it could be a Water in the back, which is maybe it's like a Swampert or something, and then it's probably over, to be honest, because now the Superior has to try to handle both this Superior and the whatever's in the back, and they still have Sableye, I believe, as well. So we're going to go ahead and shield that Aerial Ace. We're going to farm down, and it's a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. So this is something, obviously, that is devastating to me. Because it's just going to be 1 Drill Run and 1, I tried to go for the Surf, but it was a bit late. 1 Drill Run and 1 Ice Punch, and we're basically done. So, boom, down we go. And, yeah, this is going to be a good game. Unfortunately, not able to take it out. But this is where, like I said earlier, Alolan Sandslash is a tough Pokemon for this team to face off against, depending on the situation. Other games, we were able to handle it. This one, we weren't. It was hidden in the back, so good game. All right, we got Medicham on the lead. Very meta lead matchup, and I always like to play this based on what my opponent does. If they decide to shield, this tells me maybe they're weak to Lantern in the back, so I want to draw something out with my own Medicham. I will give up no shield on that one. I'm going to look to go for Thunderbolt here. If they let it go, I may still swap in, but they decide to shield, so we're coming in with Medicham anyways. Now, sorry, the opponent right here is not swapping out. They're looking to try to land probably a Psychic, would be my guess, to soften up the mid-game matchup, so I will even up the shields here. And then they come in with Lickitung. So Lickitung is their best answer to Medicham, which clearly screams to me that they are core broken or have a weak backline to Medicham. We also get a defense drop right there, which is huge because now this Ice Punch might just be enough to KO. We get the final shield, and now this is a very good situation. Again, we're reading that because they brought in Lickitung, that they might be weak in the back. I'm like, please be a Bastion or something good, as they come in with their own Medicham. So we're going to go ahead and look to go for Psychic right here, and then and we'll have to see if this is going to be enough to KO. Oh, it is. Beautiful. And the final Pokemon is Lantern, so Superior can take that. So that is going to be a good game as they do decide to surrender. All right. Moving into the next one, we have Lantern versus Medicham once again on the lead. So this, we'll have to see how they decide to play in this matchup, as we're just going to go ahead and load up and look to go for the Thunderbolt. Now, this opponent, unlike the previous one, is overloading on energy, which can be very dangerous because energy on a Medicham can go a lot of places against my team. So what we're going to look to do is hope that I can get to the Surf. I will decide to shield on the Psychic because they decided to let it go. My hope is that I can get to this Surf in time, but unfortunately I can't. Basically one turn behind right there, as they do land the Psychic, and we go ahead and go for the Surf now to get rid of the Medicham. They're probably going to no-shield at this point, so yeah, they decide to let it go. In comes Dugong. So this is now... I should have probably swapped out, to be honest, but we're going to come in with Medicham. That was honestly a waste of health. I could have used that as a sacrificial swap. But Medicham right here is going to go ahead and come in, and they have a lot of Icy Wind debuffs. Now, I don't know what Pokemon number 3 is going to be, but my hope is that it's Lantern, right? So that we had a Medicham lead, Dugong safe swap, a Lantern hidden in the back kind of makes sense. So I'm going to try to keep Superior alive for that because I think that's just ultimately the win con here, right? This is how I play the game. I read potential win cons and I make choices based on that. You can either win or you lose, right? So we're going to go ahead and counter swap now into Superior, and they counter swap at the same time, and it's a Alolan Sandslash. So once again, I mentioned at the beginning in the first couple battles, there are situations where Alolan Sandslash can be handled, and then there are others where it's hidden and it core breaks you or gets out of control because you just don't have that counter damage or water gun damage to chip it down. So unfortunately for me, this is going to be a good game. I could have obviously saved, looking back at this, I could have saved my Lantern, swapped into Medicham right away, and had a sacrificial swap, as that could have been very helpful later in this game. So that's going to be a good game regardless. We're just going to go ahead and no shield, and they will Shadow Claw down. So good battle right there to my opponent. All right, moving to the next one. Pelipper once again. So we love seeing Pelipper leads. This is what we like, as they will swap out into Lantern. So we're going to bring in Superior. Kind of like the previous battle where I faced off against a Superior and a Sableye, it doesn't really get better than this, right? When it comes to matchups. Obviously, Swampert or something extremely weak to Vine Whip would be a bit better, but Lantern is a beautiful mid-game matchup because we can overload on energy, have a Frenzy Plant ready to go, and this is good. We can do a lot of neutral damage on the back end here to Pelipper as well. Could have gotten away with maybe overcharging or overloading on energy a bit more, but I figure I could probably get to 2 Frenzy Plants here against the Pelipper if they decide to go for a Weather Ball. But as you can see, look at that Frenzy Plant damage. That's incredible. Now, I go for the charge move here, but they do decide to CMP tie, which is fine. That's charge move priority, as Weather Ball will take us out. We come in with Lantern, and they have a Shadow Venusaur in the back. This is tough. Shadow Venusaur hidden in the back obviously can do very well against a lot of teams as long as you get rid of the hardest counter. Now, thankfully for me, Medicham here with Ice Punch is very good. Does super effective damage, but unfortunately for me, Venusaur pretty much outpaces. It's going to beat me to the third charge move. So this is going to be a tough one. I have to double shield, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and go for the Ice Punch to get the final shield from our opponent. And then it's going to be a race to the charge move. But thankfully for me, because this is such a close matchup, the opponent has to throw right away. They have to throw, which means they're out of energy. And Lantern right here is getting close to a Surf. So we're going to go ahead and come in. This is looking pretty good. And they decide to swap out into Pelipper, trying to catch a charge move, which is fine. And they decide to surrender. Good game. Alright, moving into the next one. Lantern versus Gligar. This is the matchup I was talking about earlier. The water gun damage is so huge in this matchup. It makes Gligar kind of obsolete, if I'm being completely honest. Now, we will respect the Dig and look to go for a Surf ourselves, as Dig does quite a bit of damage now. If you guys, I'm sure you guys are aware, but for those of you maybe coming back, Dig got updated Gligar's #1 flyer. Shocking, I know. Now, they counter swap into Medicham, so we go ahead and come in with Superior right here. Superior is probably our better matchup, because if we come into the mirror, we are behind on energy and only even on shields, whereas Superior right here can look to go for a Frenzy Plant first. They're likely not going to be shielding earlier, and this just does a little bit more damage. And then we're safe to go for Aerial Ace. So we're going to go ahead and look to no shield. Actually, I'm trying to hope I survive, but I don't. I thought I could survive right there potentially, but unfortunately not. Now, just because we lost that matchup doesn't mean that I can't come in with Medicham and load up on energy, because remember, Gligar might be the hardest counter to a Medicham on their team, and Ice Punch will KO. And the fact that we have so much energy right now is very beneficial for us, because the Gligar does decide to come in. So we're going to go ahead and go for the basically back-to-back Ice Punches right here. The first one does get the shield. We will respect their charge move if they get to it, but they don't. Our Medicham, because we had the healthy farm down right there, is able to get to it. Remember, we still have a Lantern. Boom! Down goes the Gligar, and final Pokemon is Lickitung, so they decide to surrender. That is going to be a good game. Very well played. Alright, moving into the next one, we got Lantern versus Gligar again. So once again, very good matchup with the Water Gun. This time they decide to swap out into Lickitung. So what I'm going to hope to do is try to catch a Power Whip on the Superior, but I don't get it. So unfortunately, this Lickitung has quite a bit of energy. Body Slam, though, doesn't do that much, so we're going to be able to soak maybe 3 if you add up the Lick damage as well. And Frenzy Plant here does really solid. I think Superior is probably one of those just the greatest bulky grass types to handle a lot of these awkward neutral matchups that you don't necessarily want to come in with. Now, the reason why I didn't come in with Medicham was a team read right here. It could be wrong on my end, but ultimately I thought, you know what, there might be something weak in the back to a fighter, which is why I'm making the same decision that I did earlier. We saw a Gligar lead, and now we have a Lickitung in the mid game. If Gligar comes back in, so be it. I got Ice Punches right here. This is going to be doing super effective damage and getting shields as well. And we are ahead in terms of health, but they decide to let it go through. So I counter swap to get the fast move farm down, and they decide to surrender. So that is going to be a good game. Very well played. I don't know what was in the back, obviously. Maybe a Bastiodon, maybe a Carbink, maybe a Registeel. Don't know. Alright, we got Sableye on the lead. So Sableye is a Pokemon that we obviously want to get rid of early and look to leverage our backline to try to win the game once Sableye is gone, because Sableye just does so well against both Medicham and the Superior. So we're going to go ahead and go for Thunderbolt right here. I want to try to do as much damage as possible. If I get shield, great. But they decide to let it go, which is totally fine. And now we have an opportunity here to shield, because what we're going to look to do is Water Gun down. I think I can outpace them, and that is looking to be the case as we do get the fast move down. So we maintain switch, which is perfect. Now they bring in a Superior, so I'm going to go ahead and counter swap, and we draw out a Gligar. Now this is why Medicham has been such a good counter swap for me in the Open Great League, is because of a lot of its counters are weak to Ice Punch, and a lot of its neutral matchups, Psychic does super well. It's overall a fantastic Pokemon. I mean, you guys know Medicham, it's been the meta for like ever. But in this situation, we can let the Aerial Ace go. We can look to go for another Ice Punch here, try to get a shield from our opponent, but they decide to let it go. And this is now a troubling situation because, excuse me, this Superior is loading up on energy, but thankfully we kept our Lantern alive and we got a shield right there. So what we're going to look to do is obviously come into the mirror, and then I'm going to try to catch the charge move on Lantern, which I do. Beautiful. Now they decide to undercharge it, which is fine, or maybe they didn't. I feel like that was an undercharge. Maybe it wasn't, but either way, I get the Surf chip damage, which is huge. That little bit of damage is going to allow me to win this game, potentially. You can kind of tell. They're at 50% health, sub 50%. I'm at 100% health, and it's even shields, and I still have a good amount of energy. So all we need to do is basically go for 2 Aerial Aces to win this one, if you also add in the Vine Whip fast move damage. So we get shield number 1, and we can safely shield this one, and then go for Aerial Ace number 2, and that is going to be KOing the Superior. So the catch right there was huge for me. Winning the lead, saving the Lantern, and using it to catch a charge move later on. So good game to my opponent. All right, moving into what I believe is the last one, we have Steelix on the lead. So Shadow Steelix, very good for this team to face off against. They swap into a Medicham. So what we're going to look to do is try to go for a Thunderbolt. I have really good matchups in the back against the Steelix anyways. So I will go ahead and no shield, and they decided to go for Ice Punch, which is fine. I can go ahead and go for Thunderbolt here, do a lot of neutral damage, and then look to come in with the Superior, because it actually has a pretty good matchup right here, especially with that Aerial Ace for super effective damage. And we throw it as well just before they can throw the Ice Punch. So we get that CMP tie. We get a shield, which is fine. I'm okay with that decision by them, as I can let this Ice Punch go through. And now we're still in a very good position right here. I don't need a lot of health on Superior. What I want is a lot of energy. And I want low health as well, because when the Steelix comes back in, which we do see, they're not going to be able to get as much energy from farming us down with Dragon Tail as they would have if I had more health. And Frenzy Plant here does a lot of damage, as you guys are seeing. So they're going to try to commit to the farm down, but this allows me to get to the Frenzy Plant in time, which either KOs the Steelix or gets the final shield of this game. I come in with Lantern right now, and I'm going to make a call that it's going to be Breaking Swipe, but unfortunately for me, it was an Earthquake. Boom! I go down. I come in with Medicham to counter down. I have a shield, and they decide to surrender. So good game, very well played. This team put in a lot of work today. Everyone, it was very, very fun today. It put in a lot of work for me on Friday and Saturday, and I know you guys haven't seen battles from me, but I really wanted to give this team the good run without giving it up too quickly, which seems to be my weakness. I make a fun team that's super strong, and I can only run it for one day, and I give it away. So I played with this over the weekend. It was super good, and again, like I said at the beginning, every single Pokemon on this team does well against the Clodsire, the new Community Day Pokemon, so you can safely run this for that meta. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and like always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.